Hi, I'm Sam Berkman, J Street's National Director of Communal Relations, and I am thrilled to be speaking with Cantor Donnie Maseng today. Donnie, thank you so much for taking the time. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
So let's dive right in. Not only are you an incredibly talented and well-known cantor, spiritual leader, playwright, actor, singer, and composer, but you are all of those things and also an Israeli American. So I was wondering if you can start by sharing with us your family's ties to Israel.
These ties to Israel begin on my mother's side, 1917, when my great-grandfather Shmuel Bloom came first to Eretz Yisrael and started redeeming lands, purchasing lands, and was, I believe, the first American Jewish industrialist in the land of Israel. He was a close friend of Chaim Nachman Bialik and had a vision of a utopian vision of an Israel, which he passed on to his daughter, my grandmother, who came with her husband, my grandfather, Harry Davidowitz, Rabbi Dr. Harry Davidowitz, in 1934. My grandmother then became the first critic at large for culture and theater for the Palestine Post and then the Jerusalem Post, and worked for the Haganah as a spy. And my grandfather, because he was a conservative rabbi, he was a graduate of JTS, actually the first JTS graduate to make Aliyah to Eretz Yisrael, became the first person to translate all of Shakespeare's works into Hebrew, and then Chaucer and Beowulf. He won the Chun Award for it, and he interestingly helped write the first draft of Israel's Declaration of Independence. My father came in 1948 as a volunteer. He was a Norwegian Lutheran. He was a bomber pilot in World War II who was recruited by the Haganah while he was studying poetry at Columbia University. Came to Israel and never looked back again. He was a squadron commander in the Israeli Air Force and then pilot for El Al. Bed was a test pilot and then one of the pilots of Arkia. So that's my family's connection to Eretz Yisrael. On the one hand, these Lithuanian Jews, ardent Zionists, and on the other hand, this Norwegian Lutheran who then converted to Judaism, who had no connection to Eretz Yisrael whatsoever, but fell madly in love with it and obviously put his life on the line for it.
Can you share with us what it was like growing up in Israel for you?
Mixed bag. Truthfully, I the first time I fell in love with Israel was when I was 17 and went to Kibbutz Sarid as a volunteer, and then there for a few years. Sarid and Kibbutz left this, in this case, Shomer HaTzair Kibbutz, in this beautiful idyllic setting for Emek Yisrael, right under Nazareth. Was the first time I really got to know Eretz Yisrael mamash, like the earth, the smell of it, the smell of the wheat, the smell of the orange groves, the mud, the dirt, the rocks, the thorns, the thistles, the beauty, everything. And to be in the company of true pioneers, people who actually really made all of that place green, and it was a hellhole they had first arrived there. Prior to that, it was complicated because I always felt like an outsider. We spoke only English at home. We spoke Hebrew, obviously, in the street and at school. So it was mixed. There were some wonderful things about it. There were some not so wonderful things about it. But I grew up a very privileged life in Tzahala, which was a neighborhood created for the top ranking Tzahal officers, hence the name Tzahala. So, I grew up with Rabin and Moti Hod and Arik Sharon and Herzog and Moshe Dayan and so forth and so on. It was that kind of a very, very, it was a bubble in Eretz Yisrael. We're not very much aware of what was happening anywhere around us in the peripheries. All we knew was Tzahala or Tel Aviv.
And you served in the IDF.
Yeah. Yes, I did. I went to the IDF. I was in Khirmesh, armored infantry. I served on the West Bank, unfortunately, in 68, 69, and then 73. By the end of that, I was already moved over to the entertainment, which is something we have in Israel, where it's not like the USO. It's not civilians coming in to do some cool performances and wherever. This is you're attached to a unit and you sing. The worst of it, obviously, was the Yom Kippur War in 1973, which was a disaster. Oddly enough, the Yom Kippur War is when I learned to not hate, where I truly learned to not hate, to not see my enemy as an object, but rather as a human being. And it happened because we came across a burnt out tank, and there were bodies outside of the tank. And in one of them, there was a wallet open, like by the side of the body. And in it was a picture of this soldier with his wife and his daughter in Damascus. And it was just this very ordinary, simple picture, like any other picture of a father with a wife and a daughter. That was the moment in which I lost my ability to hate the other, to hate the enemy. Stopped seeing it in those terms.
So you mentioned part of your service was performing, and so I wanted to
Yeah.
ask, share how you got your start as a performer for Israel.
I at age 14 and a half, professionally, I went on a show called Shuot Rishonot, First Applause, which was kind of like the American Idol of Israel in those days. It was a radio show. My show at that time were Avi Toledano and Edna Lev, Shuli Natan, and Shemto Beni Nagai. Those names may not mean much to Americans. For Israelis, those were like, wow. I worked with great performers. I participated in the first live broadcast of Israeli television, Kan Alhambra, which was an entertainment variety show broadcast from Alhambra, which was the musical theater in Israel. It was in Yafo, and there we were performing for the first TV show in Israel. All the people, the entire crew, were all CBS, NBC, ABC, BBC, CBC people. All these Jews rushing to Israel to participate in this miraculous event. I was in two trios. I loads of concerts. I was on the hit parade. On the charts. I had a few number ones. I got to represent Israel and specifically Golda Meir doing Only Fools Are Sad on Broadway.
So what brought you to the US?
A need to not be in Israel at that moment. And those were not political or monetary reasons. I was doing really well. I was too well, and my head was not geared for that. I was not happy with myself personally to the umpteenth degree, and America was home because my family was from there. So coming to the States was an odd leaving home, coming home. Uh, I came here to get lost. I came here to just not be Danny Maseng, not some you recognize in the street or has to go into a movie house after the lights go out, or that kind of a thing. To lose the public face, and I stopped performing as a singer, and I started doing design, lighting design for theater, costume, uh, anything, directing, teaching, anything but that. And then when I felt ready, I started performing again. But about years before that again, but started in earnest 1980, 81.
You've as you said, you've written your own musical and other productions. You've produced, impressive, if I may say, musical catalog through the years. And you've served as a spiritual leader for multiple Jewish communities across the United States. What I wanted to ask you was, what does it feel like to know that your music, your compositions are being played in synagogues and communities, not just across the country, but around the world, integrated into their expressions of prayer and Judaism?
It's both surreal and wonderful. I mean, it's kind of a dream. It's very odd when you first will come someplace and people will sing something that you wrote. And once you write something and somebody else sings it, it's not your song anymore. That's not how you look at it anymore. It's this thing that's out there.
So in terms of your role as a spiritual leader, I was curious, in the various congregations that you've helped lead over the years, did conversations about Israel arise? And if so, how did you navigate those discussions?
First of all, conversations arose, and second, I arisen them. So if they weren't having a conversation, I brought it up. I have very low tolerance for ignorance. You're a Jew, learn. You're a Jew, understand Israel, learn about Israel, read about Israel, talk to Israelis, all kinds of Israelis. Go to Israel, not on a government-led trip. Go to Israel. See what it's really like. Smell it, taste it, feel it. So it was very important for me always to contextualize so that people would understand that when I say I'm very, very adamantly for a Palestinian state and for Palestinian rights, it does not mean I endorse the Palestinian Authority or chas v'chalila Hamas or Islamic Jihad. So very important for people to get context. So when you say I'm pro-Palestinian rights, do not paint me as a left-wing whatever who fell off, the truck and is a self-hating Jew. I am anything but. I am a patriot. I care deeply about Israel. I believe unshakably in right to exist. I am a Zionist, and no, Zionism is not racism and it's not colonialism on the one hand. And on the other hand, there are human beings that we're dealing with in Eretz Yisrael, and we need to deal with them as the Bible instructed us. Mishpat echad yihye lecha lagir velatoshav. You shall have one law for the stranger who dwells amongst you and for yourselves. Ve'ahavta et hager, you shall love the stranger who dwells amongst you, appears more times than the Ahavta commandment in the Torah, 36 times. So I believe in that too. If my Judaism makes me hate the other or oppress the other, I need to examine my Judaism very carefully. Do not believe that a Jew should ever conflict with being a human being in this world. And if it does, then it's a Judaism that needs to be fixed. Israel is supposed to be an or lagoyim, not a choshech lagoyim. Okay, so light. And there's plenty of light, and there are plenty of wonderful people in this world. Let's make them count.
You're a member of J Street's Rabbinic and Cantorial Cabinet. What is it about J Street that led you to lend your name and support to the cause?
I do not like an organization that rubber stamps Israeli politics, whatever they are. I'm sorry, I don't think that's at the best that's not in the best interest of Israel. Israelis need to hear when people disagree with them, especially people they care about. Just because I love you doesn't mean I always agree with you. And if we really have a relationship, as anyone who is married or has a serious relationship knows, we have those moments in which we say, I adore you, but I disagree with you on this issue. And I want to tell you why I disagree with you on this issue. That's the relationship we ought to have with Israel. It's a relationship I believe Jay has with Israel. So you advocate for Israel's right to exist. You advocate for Jews' right to have a homeland. But you also advocate for keeping keeping the eye on the prize. What is this endeavor all about? Why are we here? Why have we come to Eretz Yisrael? What did we have in mind? What were we yearning for? What is this the embodiment, realization of? A Street stands for Israel, and essence of what Israel is about, of independence of Israel, and for what the prophetic vision of Isaiah and Jeremiah were for Israel. That's what Israel is, and that's what I believe J Street stands for. And so long as it does, I'll be to be part of it.
For those who are interested in learning more about you and your work, where can they find more information?
Well, if you go online, Danny, D-A, and it's on the screen, yeah? D-A-N-N-Y, Maseng. So you can friend me on Facebook, please, because I post a lot of things on Facebook, especially music. Every once in a while, I go off on a rant when something really upsets me, but usually it's just music. Or you can go to my website, donnie.com, www.donniemaseng.com. Those two ways you'll be able to follow doing.
Wonderful. Well, it's been a real pleasure to speak with you, Donnie. Thanks so much. And again, you can find out more about what Donnie is up to at donniemaseng.com. And if you'd like to learn more about J Street or find ways to get involved, please visit us at jstreet.org.